am so grateful that I literally only talked about one palette because this entire time for 10 minutes I've been talking, not recording. So hi guys, what's up and welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you guys are new here. What an epic intro. But in today's video, I know it's been a long time no see since you see my face, but I'm in the middle of doing a massive declutter on my channel, and I figured I'd stop before I get to my eyeshadow palettes to actually rank every single eyeshadow palette that I've tried this year. I tried over 89 palettes. I currently have 92 sitting in front of me, but I only physically tried 89 palettes. And I'm here to tell you guys what I think the worst palettes of the year were to the very best palettes of the year were. So if you guys want to see all that, well then definitely keep watching. I cannot believe I sat here talking this entire time and didn't realize that I was recording. I'm so glad I looked over and I was like, oh, that looks odd, because I wasn't recording. But anyway, I literally have over 92 palettes sitting in front of me, but I only physically tried 89. And I've seen so many creators do this where they rank every single eyeshadow that they ever tried that year. And I was like, you know what? That's a really good idea, especially because I'm about to do a massive eyeshadow palette declutter. And I was like, well, before I do that, why don't I go ahead and go through everything that I tried this year? That way kind of helps me narrow down what I want to keep and what I don't want to keep when that declutter actually happens. So with that said, guys, we're going to go ahead and dive right in. You are going to see a lot of brands in here that I physically do love so much, but at the end of the day, this palette wasn't as wowing as other palettes were. So we're going to go ahead and start off with the worst palette of the year. I'm just going to have the number pop up right here because I know myself. I'm going to mess up. I'm going to forget the number. So I'm just going to have editor Allie take care of the number. But starting off as the worst palette of the year, and this truly was the worst palette I've ever tried this year, it was the Base Blue Cosmetics Artistry palette. I wanted to love this palette so much. It's so innovative. I love the fact that this was a palette created in an art form. Like literally this palette was framed and the palette literally replicates the actual artwork right here. And I thought that was actually so genius. Like you don't really see brands do something that often. It definitely sparked my creativity. It got me super, super excited to try out this palette. But then I got the palette. And as cool as this concept was, oh my God, it fucking sucked. I'm so sorry, but it sucked so bad. I did not like the formula. First off, it bleeds into the other shades. Every single shadow bleeds into the other shadow. It's almost all shimmers in here, but the shimmers are so lackluster. They barely have any pigment to them. They did not have longevity. They did not stay in the eye. It was just so lackluster for me. It didn't have enough dimension to create a really pretty eye look, and I really struggled to create the eye look. I really struggled to create that eye look in that video. And the best part about the whole thing is the brand was kind of petty. So I was actually on the Base Blue Cosmetics PR list for, I don't know, I want to say like 2 years. But unfortunately, when I did my review, I gave it a negative review. So they took me off the PR list. And honestly, I laughed. Like, I don't care if I'm taken off a PR list. I don't care if I'm put on a PR list. Because at the end of the day, if I want to buy your product to review it, I'm going to do it. You know what I mean? So I did not care. But I just thought it was so funny because there are so many other creators that reviewed this that pretty much said the exact same thing as me. But I guess because I was one of the first ones, I don't know. I was so nice. I'm never mean about a product. I'm never mean about a brand. If I don't like something, I explain why I don't like it in a very nice way. But I guess they didn't like the fact that I did not like this palette. But the formula speaks for itself. It's a very shitty formula. I loved the concept. I loved the idea. And I was really hoping to see what they're going to create next. But I have not seen them come out with another palette like this since. So as cool as it is, this is something I'm definitely going to be decluttering because it just wasn't giving. The formula just really, really took away from the actual palette. And I just wish that they would have improved it. I wish they would have probably tested it more. But cool concept. But God, formula sucked. Coming up next, and this is going to be kind of a shock because you guys know I love this brand, but we have the Natasha Denona Retrogram palette. This recently launched. I bought it and I just don't like it. I just don't like it. I don't like the color scheme. I didn't like how it performed. I definitely struggled with this one. This palette just wasn't giving. You guys actually told me that Mel Thompson, who unfortunately passed away, actually created something very similar to this, which I think it was Cindy Grace Cosmetic that was actually selling her version of this palette that she created long ago. I feel like that would have been a better buy than this. This just, I did not like it. It sucked in my opinion. This is something I definitely would not be keeping in my collection as much as I want to, because like the hoarder in me is like, yes. At the same time, I should have returned it. I should have returned the palette because it just sucked. And it's just really unfortunate. I tried it, but yeah, just, it's not for me. Next, we have the e.l.f. collaboration with Dunkin'. If you guys have watched any of my videos recently, you guys will have seen that I have been having some drama with e.l.f. Cosmetics. And pretty much, long story short, I bought a mystery box. And in the mystery box, they put the 2021 Advent calendar. You guys all told me to reach out to customer service and say that they were misleading in their advertisement when they talked about a mystery box, that they really just wanted to sell old product that didn't sell the year before. So I took your guys' advice. I contacted them and I pretty much said that I was a dissatisfied customer, that it just kind of felt very misleading and false advertising, that they were selling a mystery box only to really just give you a 2021 Advent calendar that doesn't really have a value the way that the newer 2022 does. And they pretty much told me, and the multiple emails that we had, that I should be very grateful with the box. It's a wonderful box. I should appreciate the $100 value that Advent calendar has to offer. And I pretty much have no place to say anything because it's a great box. It's kind of how the conversation ended up turning out. And I'm still in a battle process with the bank to get my money back on it because e.l.f. said that since I'm going through my bank, they cannot help me. But because they saw my YouTube video, because I had to send my YouTube video in as a proof, because I needed proof to show that I didn't get what was described. So the only thing I have was my link to my video. They watched it, and their way of making up for it is sending me their newest products, like the newest like lipstick line. That's their way of saying, we hope you continue to shop e.l.f. We want to have like your business and stuff like that. And some of you guys actually pointed out that maybe there's a chance that maybe the only reason why they're doing that is because I have a channel, which that very well could be true. If that's the case, that's really kind of shitty if that's what they do. But they're saying they're going to send me this stuff. We'll actually see what happens. I'm still going to shop e.l.f. if there's a collection that I like. Some of you guys said to boycott e.l.f., don't shop them again. But at the end of the day, it's a very affordable brand and they do create really cute collections. So that's why this is like ranked right here, because very cute collection. But I just feel like these shimmers, I just feel like these shadows, it didn't perform the way that I'm used to e.l.f. performing. They break so easily and they're just so boring and bland. And these are palettes that I'm definitely not going to keep in my declutter because I'm never going to use them. I love the concept of it. I thought it was such a fun collection to review, but ultimately it sucked. But I will say I'm still gonna like give e.l.f. a chance regardless of my experience with them. If I find like a really cute collection, I'll review it. Next, and this is kind of my fault, but we have the Create Your Own palette with ColourPop. So these are the shadows that I picked, and you guys know how much I love ColourPop. I love ColourPop so much. But they had advertised Create Your Palette, that it was back, and all the single shadows that they had available before this actually went live was so fun. It was like greens, yellows, blues, purples. It was like the rainbow. I was so excited. I was like, cool, I could kind of custom create my own palette. I was going to kind of go through like a fall theme. And then it actually launched and they took away all those colors and it just became kind of more basic everyday colors, which is nothing wrong with that. These shadows perform beautifully. I love ColourPop's formula, but I just found it to be very boring. And I was really just disappointed with the whole picking your shadows because it just really limited what you could actually pick, and I just wanted to be fun and creative, and it's my fault for picking these colors, but these are the only thing I was kind of limited to, so it's why it's like really ranked down on like the worst palettes of the year, because I just don't get excited about this. I had fun doing it, but I just wish that they would actually open up their whole range of shadows and not just limit you to a certain color at that time and style. Like I feel like they should just have everything available like they used to. So yeah, as much as I wanted to love this palette, I just don't. I love Disney. Hello, I love Disney. I live and breathe the Disney world. I worked there for like freaking 11 years. My family has worked there my entire life. I grew up and I live and breathe Disney, okay? So I love Disney so much. So when I saw they were doing a Lilo and Stitch collection, I absolutely had to have it. Well, I will say the outside packaging is super cute and I had fun reviewing that. I had fun reviewing the collection. Wet n Wild palettes just... they don't give. Their shimmers are not the best. Their glitters are atrocious. And their mattes are just okay. They're not exciting. It's one of those brands that like I think it's great for the price point. But it's one of those brands that I would never really pick up the shadow to use to do like an everyday eye look just because I really just don't care for their formula at all. But it was fun to review the collection. It just was very boring, very basic, and the formula is just pretty lackluster to me. So it's why it's like really ranked down low. But I did have fun, but I know me, I will never pick up this palette again. Same thing with this next palette is another one from Wet n Wild, and it is the Merry Christmas Charlie Brown. As fun as this collection was, again, I really had fun in my video. It's just one of those palettes that just don't give anything to me. I don't find it exciting. The color scheme is kind of all over the place. Like, I really wanted more Christmassy colors, and you kind of have somewhat Christmassy colors, but again, it just doesn't scream Christmas. The shimmers are just not the best. The mattes are not the best, and the pressed glitters are just, I hate their pressed glitters so much, and they always put them in here. Packaging is cute. Packaging is really cute. Collection's very cute. It's very affordable, but it's just one of those palettes, one of those brands that, like, no. Next, we have another Natasha Denona palette. This is the Mini Biba palette. It's a really cute palette. It really is, but I just look at it now and I'm like, why would I ever spend $25 on this? In reality, like, why would I spend $25 on this? I could just save my money and put this towards a full-size palette or put it towards something else, because I'm never realistically going to dig into this palette as I would bigger palettes because I'm so limited on what I could create. It's super cute for, like, on the go. If you're traveling, it's amazing for that. But in reality, like, I kind of wasted my money. I bought it because it was the hype of the year. Everybody was buying the Mini Biba with, like, the shadows and stuff like that. Natasha Denona is always one of those viral brands you want to review because it's viral. So I fell for it and I did it, and I've only used it one time. So I'm calling myself out on that one. Up next, we do have the Game Beauty. This is the Cyberpunk palette. Guys, you guys know how much I love Game Beauty. I think they're a phenomenal brand. I really do love Game Beauty. I love makeup and video games. And video games are a huge passion of mine. If you guys have not seen, I have been streaming a lot on my channel, and I'm bringing more games to my channel in 2023 because I just love video games so much, and I love sharing that passion with you guys. And so when this brand came out, I got so excited, and I saw this palette and I was like, oh my God, this palette is absolutely gorgeous. Like, it's like a cyberpunk theme, and I freaking love the packaging. I love the futuristic style of it. I love the colors. And when you open the inside, I really loved the colors on the inside. I thought the colors were really beautiful. I thought it was a really fun palette when you first look at it. But the formula just sucked. Unfortunately, the formula just really sucked. It just was very lackluster. It did not stay. I really struggled with these shimmers. I feel like the shimmers were very drying. They did not want to stay in the eye. I could not get the pigment that I'm used to when it comes to Game Beauty. And so I was just very disappointed in this particular palette because I've had so many of their other ones that perform beautifully. But for some reason, these shimmers were just very dull, very dry, did not last. And, like, the mattes were kind of just lackluster as well. They kind of blended themselves away, and I was just really disappointed with this palette. I wanted to love it. I love the concept of it, but it just wasn't giving to me. And that made me really sad because I really do love Game Beauty. And so it's really sad to put them really low on the list, but hopefully next year they'll create more palettes that are really fun, really creative, and better formula. We have another Natasha Denona palette. This is my dream palette. Again, it's one of those collections that I bought because everybody else was buying it, everybody else was reviewing it. And I will say, you know, the formula in here is amazing. I love the formula, but the color scheme just isn't giving it to me. I don't know. I just don't find the color scheme that exciting. I like the eye look that I created. I love that there's like a dual chrome right here, but I just, out of all her palettes, like this one and the Retro Glam is just not doing it for me. It doesn't get me excited. It doesn't make me want to be creative. And I wanted to love this so much because everybody else did. And while I did enjoy it and I could see myself using this again, realistically, I just find the other palettes that I'll be talking about more exciting for me than this one. So that's why it's down pretty low on the list. Next, we have an indie brand. This is the Everything palette from Jean-Luc Cosmetics. They're actually based in Canada, and I found them because of TikTok. And with this palette, she's cute. She performed well. I love the lips more than I love the palette, but it's a very bland, boring palette to me. I do like neutrals, but I don't know. I just didn't get as creative, as excited with this palette, and so it's why it's pretty down low. And they haven't really come out with anything else that got me really excited. I do want to see more stuff from this brand. I love the fact that the owner is constantly on TikTok and doing packing orders with me. Well, they used to. I don't know if they really do that anymore, but they're really fun. They're really exciting, and I love supporting small businesses, but unfortunately it just has to go down lower because I just don't get excited about it. So this one's hard for me because you guys know I love Nomad Cosmetics so much, but this Santa palette just really wasn't giving it to me. I just really struggled with this palette. I love the packaging. I love the concept, but for some reason their shimmers were different than what I'm used to. I'm used to Nomad having a specific like shimmer formula. And I feel like they changed it up for this. So while I did like the eye look that it created, and I definitely would recreate that, I definitely struggled so much to create that eye look. And I did not like that I had to struggle because I'm so used to Nomad having a specific formula, but I think they switched it up for this palette, and it was not giving. It was pretty dry for the shimmers. They were not as pigmented, did not feel as creamy or buttery. They were just lackluster in my opinion. Mattes were great, but yeah, I think because of that, it really kind of took the value down of this palette for me. And I really wanted to love it more, but unfortunately, just didn't do it for me. Next, we have the Chaotic Cosmetics. This is the Deadly Dreamer palette, and this actually came with like a 3D glasses. I didn't see anything 3D from this. Like, I tried to look at it multiple times off camera. It did not do anything 3D for me. And I will say it's a cool concept. Like, you do have your 8 shadows right here followed by these highlighters. But at the end of the day, out of all their palettes, this one's quite boring to me compared to their other ones. Doesn't really scream really Halloween style to me. And I just really won't go to this palette as often as I would the other Chaotic Cosmetics palettes that I would. I just wasn't as excited about this one. And this black shade tends to leak everywhere. Like, it's hard to tell on camera because these are like really bright highlighters and my lights get in the way, but the black has definitely like spread itself onto all these highlighters right here, which I kind of find very annoying. So yeah, this palette just doesn't do it for me as like the other ones do. So next we have the ColourPop. This is the Bon Voyage palette from BT21. I've never heard of BT21 until this collection. And while I will say it's a cute collection, I just don't get as excited for this collection as I do other ones. ColourPop put a lot of pressed glitters in here. And granted, their pressed glitters have changed from here, I feel like, until the end, because the pressed glitters in Aurora, I actually really do enjoy. But the ones in here, I'm just not a fan of. And it's a cute palette, but I just look at it and I just don't find it as exciting as I do other ColourPop palettes. I get more excited for those than this one. Maybe it's because I don't know BT21. I don't follow it, and I don't know. I look at it and I'm like, she's cute, but I just don't get that spark to create a fun look with it. Do you know what I mean? So this one is a little odd for me to put this pretty low on the list, and it has nothing to do with this brand, but it's just the fact that it's a neutral palette. And while I do enjoy neutrals, it just has to be specific style neutral that makes me really excited. But we have the Blend Bunny Cosmetics, the Dollhouse palette. Now, you guys know how much I love Blend Bunny Cosmetics. I talk about them all the time. I always use their brushes. I always tell you guys to get their palettes. I freaking love this brand. But out of their like 4 or 5 palettes they have now, I just find this one to be like the most boring out of like the 5. It's just because it definitely is more on the everyday neutral style, kind of like cool tone palette. And I just don't get as inspired to create a look when I look at this palette compared to the other ones. Like, whenever I reach for any Blend Bunny Cosmetics palette, it's never this one. I reach for all the other ones and I never really reach for this one. And while I think the formula in here is fantastic, I just don't find the color scheme to be as exciting for me as I do other ones that I'm ranking in today's video. Just, she's cute, but that's like all she is to me. She's cute, you know? I look at her and I'm like, oh, yeah. I could use some stuff, but like mostly these 3 rows right here, I just would never touch. It's mostly I would just use this palette for the shimmers. So while I do love the brand, just not my favorite palette. Next, we have the Patrick Ta Volume 2 palette. I can't believe that this is pretty low. I love Patrick Ta. I tell you guys all the time I love Patrick Ta. And while these palettes are really beautiful, I just hate the little fingerprint portion. They're really beautiful. I just don't find myself digging into them as much as I actually want to. I do find that the palettes work beautifully. You have the beautiful row of mattes followed by the shimmers. It's definitely quite expensive for what it is. Truly, it's quite expensive for what it is. And I definitely am going to be keeping this one because I do love Patrick Ta. But I just find it to be more like one of those palettes that I'm like, oh, she's really cute. Let me use this every once in a while. But like, it's not like my go-to neutral palette. You know what I mean? So I do really enjoy this one. I do think she's beautiful, but she just isn't as exciting as the other palettes. So next, we have the Too Faced Born This Way Sun Stripped palette. I actually got this palette twice this year. I bought one and then I got it in a mystery box. One, I have to say that I think the layout of this palette is super cute. The smell, it smells very perfumey, but it also smells like a rich old lady. Like, I don't know how else to describe it, but then this smells like a rich old lady. Like, this is how people smell at Disney when they got money. They got money. I'm not kidding. Or if you go to like Celebration or Windermere or any of these like, or like Nona, any of these like really rich places here in Central Florida, this is how they smell. Very just bougie and rich. And it's a very, very, very overwhelming scent. And while I do think that she's a really cute palette, I've only used this several times. So it's why it's kind of low on the list. Not because there's nothing wrong with it. It's just I find other palettes exciting. And I find the smell to be a little nauseating. It gets to be a little bit too much, and it just kind of makes me like have a headache whenever I do create an eye look with this. It's one of those things I wish Too Faced, while I appreciate them putting smelling stuff in their palettes, it's just too much. You kind of need to tone it down just a tad. I can't believe I bought this palette this year because it just doesn't feel like I did, but it's the Patrick Ta Volume 1 palette. I was actually able to buy this in January. Like I bought this in January because remember I did a video where I did like a Sephora haul in January, like kind of like buying myself Christmas presents. And I bought this palette because this palette had been sold out for so long and I finally got my hands on it. And I will say the formula is fantastic. The color scheme is fantastic. It's kind of great to mix it with the Volume 2. But again, I just don't reach for this palette as often as I do. Oh my God, little Mickey. As often as I do my other palettes. That's why it's down here. She's a cute palette. She's been sold out for so long. I think she's back in stock now. But yeah, I just am not as excited about this one as I am other ones. So next we have the Alter Ego Harmony palette. Now this was a dupe of the Natasha Denona Retro Glam palette, and she's really pretty. She is, and I think it's a great dupe, but I don't know, I feel like I'm going to gravitate more towards my Natasha Denona one more than I would this one, but I do love the affordability of Alter Ego. I think Alter Ego is a phenomenal brand, and if you can't afford the high-end palettes, this is a great brand to go for because you can literally get the exact same color scheme, the exact same formula at a third of the cost. So she's really pretty. She's an everyday neutral palette, but she just doesn't excite me as much as like my colorful palettes do. But I really do love Alter Ego. I can't wait to see what they come out with next. It's really good to see them release a palette because they haven't since, I want to say 2021. So it's good to see them finally come back out with another palette. I got really excited when I got this one. Next we have the Dominique Cosmetics. This is the Essential palette. This was the latest palette that Dominique Cosmetics came out with. And you guys know that I really do love Dominique Cosmetics. My first review was the Dominique Cosmetics Latte palette. And I will say she's a very beautiful, everyday, cool tone palette. And this was marketed as warm tone. It's definitely not. It's a cool tone palette in my opinion. I think it's a great everyday palette, but I don't know. She's neutral. I don't get as excited as I do her other palettes that I have in my collection, but I will say she's really beautiful. She performs beautifully, and it's just one of those palettes you would just want to grab if you want to try to do like a quick, eye look on the go. Very soft, very effortless. This would be the palette to definitely grab for. So next, we have another Too Faced. This is the Too Femme palette. And I will say, I really do like the packaging. I think the packaging is super cute. On the inside, you do have these like little small, colorful shadows, but I didn't get as excited about this. I don't even remember the eye look that I created using this. I just remember the hairstyle. I don't remember the eye look. I will say she's cute. But again, the perfume scent is so overwhelming. It's just so overwhelming. It's a little bit too intense. And I like palettes having a somewhat of a smell to it because sometimes I can smell like, I don't know, chemicals or paint or you guys know what I'm talking about? Like they just sometimes just don't smell the best. But like when I smell this and I open up, I just get hit in the face with perfume and it becomes very, very overwhelming. And it definitely like will give me a headache over time. So I did enjoy it, but it's definitely not my favorite either. Now this palette is not new to anybody. This palette has been out for 2 years, but I just got it this year. I just tried it this year. And I will say it's a really beautiful, like neutral palette. I still feel like out of the other Huda Beauty palettes I've tried, this one is not my favorite. I do prefer the other color schemes more, but the formula in here is incredible. I love the fact that you guys can create beautiful looks with this. It's more like an everyday neutral palette, but I just don't get as excited about this one as I do my other ones. So this is gonna come as a shock that this is down this low on the list, but it is my least favorite one from this brand that I tried this year. And it's the Glamlite Strawberry Shortcake palette. You guys know I live and breathe Glamlite. If you guys have ever watched any of my videos, I live and breathe Glamlite. I have for 4 years. Since I've tried their mystery box, I have been in love with this brand. And the reason why this one's down on the list is because one, this came out in December. Well, we're in December now, but like I wanted a Christmas palette, and yes, you can create some Christmas looks with this. But I just don't get excited, like as excited about this one as I do with their other ones. One, I've never seen the show. Strawberry Shortcake was before my time. So I don't really know. I've seen the character, but I've never seen the show. And I think the colors in here are beautiful. The formula is just chef's kiss. I love Glam Light's formula so much. But I'm also really not like a pinky red eyeshadow girl. Like, I'm just not really into pinks and reds. I find them to be super freaking intimidating, especially like reds and like hot pinks. They can stain the crap out of your eye, and that's just really not for me. I don't really wear that often, and if you put on the wrong color, you don't blend it well, it can make you look sickly. I don't mess with those colors. So to have a palette pretty much full of that was is a lot for me, because then I'm like, ooh, I'm kind of limited on what I really would want to create. There's a few that I can use, but the rest I'm like, I pretty much would just stick to this row and like maybe these shades, and that would be it for me. So it's why like it's down on the list, because I don't get as excited when I look at this palette compared to the other Glam Light palettes. So next we do have the Jaclyn Cosmetics. This is the strawberry palette. We just have another strawberry palette. Now the reason why this one is here is because, again, it's one of those palettes that has colors that I just don't really play with. I like the packaging. It's very minimalistic, very cute. But again, the color schemes are just not my color schemes. I don't really play with these colors. So I've only used this palette like 2 or 3 times, and I probably won't dig into it as much as I would the other palettes in my collection, just because I don't really use these colors. But I will say I will hold a special spot in my heart for this palette, because this was the first like palette from Jaclyn Cosmetics that I got beforehand. Like, I got sent this in PR, but like it wasn't really PR. If you guys did not know, I did work with Jaclyn Cosmetics when they did the Dear Mom launch. They were so sweet enough to give me a discount code to give to you guys. It was not affiliated. I made no money off of it, but it's just a discount code to save you guys 10% during the Mother's Day sale that they were having, and they really enjoyed working with me. So as a way of saying thank you, they gifted me some of my favorite products as backups, and they gave me the new Strawberry Fields in PR. But that was it. I haven't gotten anything since. I'm not added to the list, but this was their way of saying, oh, thank you so much for working with us. So I have a special place in my heart for this palette because of that, but it's definitely like not my favorite. Ace Beauté Paletteopoly. This was a really fun video. It was a really fun game to play. And I will say I love the fact that Ace Beauté has definitely reformulated their formulas, because now the formulas are actually incredible. I love the shimmers. I had fun with this, but I just haven't played with this palette as much as I want to. I haven't really had a chance to play the game again with anybody, because it's one of those palettes you want to play the game with. But it's a really cool concept. I do like the colors in here, but there's quite a few colors that I wouldn't use. Like, I wouldn't use the pink row, I wouldn't use the purple row, I wouldn't use this row. So I use the blue, brown, and green. So that's why it's pretty low on my list, because I prefer more colors than this. But it was a fun game, a really cute concept. And I was very grateful that they, sent this my way, because I had a lot of fun. Next, we have the Kiara Cosmetics. This is the Spectra Chrome 6 Shadow Palette. And they were so kind enough to give this to me in PR. And I will say it was a really cute palette. I really did like the formula in here. The dual chromes were gorgeous. They performed very beautifully. But that's kind of like all I have to say. There really wasn't too much more I can do with this. It wasn't as like dimensional as I want it to be, because you're only limited to having just shimmers. You don't really have like mattes to go with it. And so yeah, like it was cute, but I just wish I had more to it. Next we have these guys. This was the last PR that I got from ColourPop. It was their like little hair color palettes right here. I did a full review on these, and these are cute little palettes from ColourPop. I love ColourPop's formula, you guys know that. But like out of all the palettes I've tried from ColourPop this year, these ones just excite me the least, because I just feel like you're only limited to 4 shadows to create a look with. And granted, these are great for like on the go travel and whatnot, but like I am the type of person that I like to mix and match. I like to be creative, so I'd have to open up every single palette and like pick and choose the colors to create an eye look with, which was pretty difficult for me to do when I did my video. So I wanted to love these more, but I just, they're just not as exciting as the other ones are. So I kind of count this as like one, but I'll have like a number right here for you guys, because like there are technically 6 palettes, but I'm just kind of grouping it in one just for this portion. Next we have the Jaclyn Cosmetics. This is the Dear Mom palette. One, I love the fact that she put like moms in the back of this. I think it's so cute. I do the special edition one with her mom on this side, but it's not on this one right here. And I will say, I think the color scheme, she's a pretty color scheme, definitely a neutral palette. This keeps popping out. I cannot get this shadow to stay in here to save my life. But I'll also say that like I don't find the formula to be that exciting to me as I do other formulas. This really just kind of gives off Morphe formula to me, and I'm not the biggest fan of Morphe formula. It's just not my like go-to formula in terms of like what I like to try out in palettes. And it's like an everyday neutral palette. I don't use this as often as I'd like to, unfortunately, but I will say it's cute, but just it's not my favorite. It's just not. Next we have the Pat McGrath in the Bridgerton collection. Every time I say the name, y'all call me out in my comment section so hard. Bridgerton. I guess I say Bridgerton, and you guys are like Bridgerton. So Pat McGrath Bridgerton collection. We have these 6 shadows right here, and I really do enjoy Pat McGrath. I really do, but sometimes it's a little intimidating to work with, I guess. Like their like beautiful like shimmers have a lot of fallout to them. So like this beautiful shade right here, oh my god, it gets everywhere. It gets everywhere. I remember I did a look using this palette. I definitely was trying to be creative because I was seeing like a makeup artist that day, and I ended up taking up my makeup off anyway. But I definitely had fun with this. It just isn't as exciting for me in terms of like the palettes that I have after this, because I just don't gravitate to this one as much as I want to. But this is such a gorgeous shade. I just wish it wouldn't freaking spread glitter dust everywhere when you play with it, because oh my god, it's annoying. I don't even know if I'm doing this ranking video right, by the way, because I've seen other creators do it, but I haven't sat down to watch their videos. So like, I hope I'm doing this okay, but if I'm not, sorry. Okay, so up next we do the Kylie Cosmetics collaboration with Batman. I almost did not get this collection because it's just Kylie Cosmetics and I just could care less for the brand. But I will say the packaging on this was so cute. I was really kind of surprised by the packaging. I love that it's actually like a comic book. You open up the inside, like how freaking cool is that? I still can't get over how cool the concept is. And I was actually really impressed with the formula. It really reminds me of ColourPop formula, but I also should not be surprised because it's actually in the same lab as, I should not be surprised because it's in the same lab as like Seed Beauty, and Seed Beauty is who own ColourPop, and I believe Kylie and ColourPop are in the same lab. So I definitely think this is like a really cool concept. I do think the colors in here are pretty. Definitely does give off the Batman vibe. Not a Halloween palette in my personal opinion, but I definitely had a lot of fun with this. I just won't use this palette as often as I will other palettes just because it's just not my everyday go-to like color scheme, but she's super cute. I definitely had a lot of fun, and it's definitely opened up my eyes to the brand, and it's going to allow me to want to try more things in the future if I see them create a collection that I'm really excited about. Next we do have the Nomad Cosmetics. This is the Province palette. This actually came out in the spring, and I will say I really do like the color scheme of this. I love the little bees. I love bees. But out of all the Nomad Cosmetics palettes, this was like not as exciting for me as their other ones are. I definitely only played with these 2 rows right here. I didn't really play with the rest. She's a cute palette. I love the cause because this palette is actually donating to Save the Bees in Provence, France, I think is where it was at. Such a fun palette. I mean, such a like cool little cause I represented. But yeah, I don't know. I just don't get as excited about this one as I do other ones. Next we do have the Fantasy Cosmetica. This is the Sorcerer palette. And I will say I was thoroughly impressed with this brand. This brand just launched this year. They've already launched 3 palettes, and the formula in these palettes are actually quite striking to me. I was very blown away by an indie brand having a phenomenal formula. I will say the color scheme is super cute, but it's just typically colors that I don't necessarily go for. You have those deep purples and pinks, so it's why it's a little bit lower on the list, but I will say the formula in this is great. If you guys ever want to try this brand, I highly recommend you guys do so. You guys will not be disappointed. Next we do have another Fantasy Cosmetica palette. This is the Bard palette. Now this is actually a really fun palette, but I definitely have some issues with this palette. So this shade right here called Legendary, this is why I'm getting stains on my carpet. Some of these shadows are actually coming in kind of shattered, or they tend to shatter over time because of how they're pressed. Some are pressed too hard, some are pressed too light, and this is definitely having a lot of oil leakage. It happens. Some of my Glamlight palettes actually have the same situation. But I will say I did enjoy playing this palette. It's definitely like a fun fall palette, but it just gets really irritating when this happens. It's not the brand's fault. It's just one of those things that happens. But it was a fun palette to play with. I did enjoy playing this palette. So next we do have the Glamlight. This is the Frosted Flakes palette. I kept the cereal box because how cool is it that Glamlight came in freaking like a Frosted Flakes box. I thought that was absolutely genius. And when you open the inside, I think the color scheme is so freaking beautiful. You're going to have those beautiful oranges and blues. And I love the formula on this. I had a lot of fun playing with this palette. I ate some Frosted Flakes, but I just feel like I do prefer other Glamlight palettes over this one. But this one was definitely so much fun. A very gorgeous palette, and I definitely recommend checking out this brand if you guys have not already. Up next, we did the Dominique Cosmetics. This is the Moment palette, and I was actually sent this in PR. This is my first PR that I got from Dominique Cosmetics, and for me, it was such a full circle moment because the first palette I ever reviewed on my channel was the Latte palette. So to have Kristen reach out and ask if she could send this to me in PR and add me to her PR list, I was like, wait, what? It was such a cool moment for me, especially because I did have the pleasure of meeting her a couple months prior. Man, does she look like a freaking Greek goddess in person. I was like, I'm a fucking troll standing next to her. She is just gorgeous. And I'll never forget like how kind she was. I was very scared to meet her. Like over every other event, I was scared to meet her because she's one of the first people I watched on YouTube besides Jacqueline and besides Katie or like Katie. She used to go by Luster back in the day. And Laura Lee, I was like, oh my God, Dominique Cosmetics. Like, this is Dominique. Like, I was like, oh my God, Krista Dominique. But she was the sweetest person ever. So this is the In the Moment palette. And I really do love this palette. I think it's super cute. I think it's a very beautiful, beautiful, like, summer palette. So that's why it's like right here on this list, because now it's starting to get really hard because all these palettes I'm gonna start mentioning are very hard to start to narrow down to like from worst to best. I think I've already reached the best category. I think I've reached past like the first 10 palettes that I mentioned. I'm now starting to go to the best category. But yes, I really did enjoy that palette. This is like where it starts getting hard for me, but I definitely wanted to sit here and narrow everything down. So next we do the Natasha Denona. This is the Pastel Dream palette. I love the packaging. Packaging is freaking beautiful. And in the inside, I really do enjoy the color story. I am definitely a very colorful person. I love to have very colorful eye looks, but I also have a soft spot for pastels. There's something about pastels that you can just create the prettiest eye look that looks so soft and blown out because it's pastel. It won't ever look harsh on you, and I feel like that's why I have such a soft spot for it. And I just love the color scheme. I love the look I created and had fun with this palette. So yeah. Next we do the Nomad Cosmetics. This is the Snow Lodge palette. And I think it's a really beautiful palette. I think it really does capture the essence of like snow and winter, and it gives me that Christmas vibe. I feel like this was a better Christmas palette than the Santa Village palette. Was not a fan. But I really did enjoy this palette. I had a lot of fun with the look. I did like an icy blue eye look with this, and I just think it's so fun. I loved looking at this palette. I love playing with this palette, and I definitely recommend this palette. I was so excited when ABH announced that they had a palette. This is the Novu palette, and I missed my hair in that palette because I had super short hair in that video, but I also had a lot of fun with this. This just brought back memories of when I didn't get that. Could you try again? I wasn't talking to you. Siri, I wasn't talking to you. But I definitely it brought back memories of when I first started my YouTube channel reviewing all of the ABH palettes. So it's just very nostalgic for me to review this palette. And she is a very cool tone, like springy vibe palette, but I love the look I created. I had a lot of fun with this. I didn't get the other one, like, I don't even know what that one's called. Some rock stone candy mumble jumble crap. I don't know. I didn't get the last ABH palette because it just looked very boring to me. And I'm glad I didn't get it, but yeah, I just think this is super cute. It definitely brought back so many memories, and it was just very, very nostalgic for me to review this palette. So next we have the ColourPop Rock Candy palette. Look at how cute this palette is. One, I love the outside packaging. It feels like a freaking rock. Like a rock. And when you open the inside, this is a really beautiful, cool tone palette, but it definitely has those pressed glitters in here. Again, I'm not a fan of the pressed glitters in this particular palette. They kind of just get everywhere. They're super messy, but it's such a cute little palette to play with. I definitely had fun creating eye looks with this. I just wish the most vibrant shades in this palette were not glitters, that they were shimmers, but maybe ColourPop will work on it. But definitely a fun palette to play with. Next, we do have the Darth Vader palette from ColourPop. They really let me down in this collection because they just only rolled out with the palette. They could have done so much more. I don't know why they don't ever give Star Wars the time of day like they do other collections. They just release a palette for them and that's it. I'm like, y'all have got to stop. Do better. Like, do better. And they don't. But it is what it is. And I will say I love the packaging on this. I think it's amazing. And the color scheme on the inside, it's okay. It's not my favorite color scheme, but I do love the shade right here called Stormtrooper. You guys can definitely see I really do love this shade. I had fun reviewing this palette. It's very nostalgic for me. It definitely brings up some good memories, and I just really do love Star Wars. That's why it's definitely ranked higher, because I'm a little biased towards Star Wars, but I do think that ColourPop did a great job with the packaging. I just wish they gave us more. Next, we have the ColourPop. This is the Avatar, The Last Airbender collection. I really did enjoy this collection. It was very nostalgic for me because I love Avatar, The Last Airbender. It's one of the first shows that Corey and I ever watched together, and I really did enjoy playing with this palette. I really enjoyed the eye look that it created. I think it's very beautiful. I think ColourPop did a really good job with this collection, and I freaking love my intro. I think my intro was badass. You guys should go back and watch that because I literally had to do fire, earth, air, and water. Y'all gotta watch it. So super cute collection. I think ColourPop did a great job. I enjoyed it. The packaging on this is just gorgeous. It's so gorgeous. ColourPop did a phenomenal job with their packaging in terms of the Star Wars palette. This is the one they actually did a full collection for. And I will say the inside, I loved the eye look that it created. I definitely play with some of these blue sides right over here. It's a very gorgeous palette overall. It definitely does hit the theme in my personal opinion. I loved playing with it. I love this shade and I also love this shade. I would definitely be playing with this palette again. I think ColourPop did a great job. I just prefer some other ColourPop palettes over this one, but I think overall they really did, you know, get the theme of Star Wars and I really enjoyed it. I know a lot of people out there didn't, but I did. Palette. This palette is so expensive. It's $125 and every time I look at it I'm like, why would I ever do that to myself? But I did. I bought it because it's Pat McGrath and everybody wants to review Pat McGrath, and I will say she's a very beautiful palette. She's very, 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 very similar to all of her other palettes that she has in her Mothership collection. I really did enjoy playing with this. I like the eye look that it created. I'll never think it's worth the price point. I'll tell you that right now. It's never worth the price point, but I definitely have fun with this. I definitely picked it up several times since then, and I can definitely see myself definitely playing with it again. I think like these shimmer shades are what really sells me the most on this palette. Next we do have Odin's Eye Cosmetics collaboration with Angelica Nyqvist. This is the Hella palette. One, I love the concept art. I love that it's like life and death, but then you open it up, it's very colorful. Now I have to be careful because one of my shades did come in pretty shattered. It's not her fault that happened, but it just happens. It's a really pretty color scheme. I love it. It came out during like the summer season. I thought it was a great time to come out. I think Angelica did a great job of picking out the colors. I was very proud of her. I love the look I created. I had fun with this, and I just think that Odin's Eye is a very, very underrated brand. I feel like more people should be talking about it because the formula truly is just amazing. I loved it palette, but I just love other palettes more. I don't know if I'm doing this like ranking video justice. I feel like I don't know what I'm doing. Like I said, never done this before, so I'm just ranking it from worst to best, and these are just the order that I put them in. So. Next we have the Too Faced Pumpkin Spice Second Slice palette. I did not know what to expect when reviewing this palette because I don't really use a lot of Too Faced products. I don't own any of their like other ones that they have like this. But I was thoroughly taken back by how pretty this palette is. I love the look that I created with this. It was so fun. I think it's definitely a perfect fall palette. I think it's great to have during the fall season. Love the smell they have. It's a very light scent. Like the other scents are so overwhelming, but this is very light, very pumpkin-y, very pumpkin-y. I feel like they did a good job with this one. But yeah, I just was taken back because I didn't know what to expect because I don't really wear color. I don't really shop Too Faced that often, and it just really took me by surprise. That's why it's further up on the list. Because it's one of those palettes, I look at it, I'm like, damn, that was a good palette. I liked it. Next we do have Teresa is Lethal. This is her second collaboration with Lethal Cosmetics. I love the alien beam. I think Teresa did such a good job, very on brand for her. And when you open up the color scheme, I think it's a very beautiful palette. This is definitely a bigger sister to her first palette. I love the look I created with this. I created like a really fun swamp monster theme. I thought it was so fun and very like gorgeous, very complimentary to her other palette. I just think that Teresa did a very good job. And I really did enjoy the formula from this brand. Definitely excited to see if they ever do another collaboration together or what they come out with. Next we do have the Nomad. This is the Cloud Forest palette. This is a really beautiful palette. I really had fun reviewing this. It's a very, very colorful palette. Definitely up my like alley in terms of colors because you are going to have those like vibrant greens in here, blues, yellows with little pops of pinks and purples that I didn't really touch on, but I thought that was just so fun. I love the look that I created with this. I love the video. I love talking about like the sloths and everything that's in here, and I don't know, I look at it, I get excited and I get creative, and like I think of summer, and it makes me like want to do like a fun summer look with this. So next we do have the Minka palette. This is from Adept Cosmetics. I recently reviewed this back in the beginning of December. Y'all, this is such a gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous palette. The foils in here are so blinding and so beautiful, but I will say they definitely do flake just a tad, and you have to be careful when working with these because a little goes a long way. You don't want to overdo it. Definitely recommend using glitter glue when playing with this, but it's a really gorgeous palette. I just wish it definitely had a little bit more mattes to play with because it is just pretty much all foils, but I had a lot of fun playing with this. I think it's really beautiful, and this is one of those brands that I'm excited to see what they come out with next, and definitely shop more stuff from this brand because their palettes and the formula are really good. Next we do have the Glamlight collaboration with Barbie. I actually did enjoy this palette. It's unfortunate that it came out right in October because this is definitely one of those palettes that should have came out in the summer because it's like one of those end of the summer palettes for me. I will say the color scheme is beautiful. I definitely kind of stuck more to like this side because you do have those pinks and purples that I don't use very often, but like I'm always gonna have like a special memory with this palette because of multiple reasons. One, Glamlight sent me a towel that had my name on it. super freaking cool. But two, I also reviewed this in the middle of a hurricane. Yep, we were getting a hurricane that day, and I got that video up before we lost power or anything like that. We never lost power, but I got that video up when I knew the hurricane was coming right at us, and I just will always associate this palette now with that memory of me going, oh my god, we have a category 3 hurricane coming right at us, so we got to get this video up ASAP. And yeah, so I'll have that memory with it, but I do think it's a really cute summer palette for sure. Next, we do have the Michaela Part 2 palette with Glamlight. I will say the packaging on this is super pretty. It's very on brand with Michaela, and it definitely matches her very first collaboration they did together. I really do love the color scheme from like here up because there's a lot of those greens that are in here, and I love greens. You do that royal purple and those royal blues. I did really have fun playing with this palette. I do prefer other Glamlights over this one, but again, the formula is phenomenal. I think Michaela did a really good job when creating the color schemes. I definitely do see her still using her palette, and I definitely think this was a lot of fun. And like, how cool is it to have like a collaboration with Glamlight? I wish. Next, we do have the Be Perfect Cosmetics. This is the Carnival palette. I originally did not really want to like this palette because of the fact that I spent so much money for another rainbow palette. And while I will say it's definitely not my favorite palette, I was actually really impressed with the eye look that I created in this video. Like, I had a lot of fun with the eye look. I thought it was very fun for me, and I thought it was really beautiful. It does look so much like the Blends palette from Blend Bunny Cosmetics. If I were to recommend either one, I'd recommend the Blends Bunny palette any day over the Be Perfect Cosmetics because it's so similar to me. It's very like, not copycat vibes, but very similar. But I will say I did really enjoy the formula. I had fun playing with it. Definitely does give you a range of colors to choose from, and I was taken back by surprise by this because I just really wasn't sure what I was going to feel. I thought that I was like, ah, shit, I just bought another rainbow palette, but I ended up really enjoying it. It was fun. Next, we do have the ColourPop. This is the C-3PO palette with Star Wars. I actually did not review this palette at all for you guys. I really wish I could have, but unfortunately I just did not have a time to put out a video for you guys. But I did play around with this palette. I think it's really beautiful. It's a beautiful yellow palette, and I love yellow. You guys know that I really do love yellow, and I just really wish I had a chance to play with this for you guys. I probably will end up using this for like New Year's Eve and do like a really pretty gold eye look possibly, but I think it's really beautiful. I think ColourPop did a wonderful job. I just wish they did more with this collection besides just releasing a palette. I just wish they would have given them like their time of day. It would have been so cool, but maybe one day. But it's a great palette. Next we do have Blend Bunny Cosmetics. This is the All Done Up palette, and I will say I really did enjoy this palette. It's surprisingly, the reason why I enjoyed it is because it's a little bit of glitz and glam and grunge, and I feel like you can create so many different beautiful looks with this. I love the look that I created with it. I love that you could do neutral, but I also love that you could do like grungy style looks with this as well. Super pretty, and I really loved the shimmers in here. Very gorgeous. Man, we are really starting to narrow it down. So next we do have the Makeup by Mario. This is the Ethereal eyeshadow palette. This was a gorgeous palette. This is a very gorgeous everyday neutral palette. I was thoroughly blown away by this palette. I didn't know what to expect, but I will say these shimmers in here are amazing. I love to just take these shimmers, put on like one of these brown shades, and just kind of top it on, and that just be it. It'd be so easy. It's like one of those on-the-go palettes that doesn't create much effort into it. You'll have a very beautiful, long-lasting look. I feel like this palette will last you a very long time, and I just think it's definitely so worth it. I love it. So do have the Nomad Cosmetics. This is the Island Paradise palette. This is based upon Fiji. And I remember when I did my video, I talked to you guys all about the sea turtles because they were actually donating to sea turtle conservation. I had a lot of fun with this palette. I love the colors in this palette. I think it's very fun, very creative. It definitely inspires me. And to me, it definitely does represent the summer. So it was like very hard to like place it at the spot in the list because I just love color so much, and I just feel like this was such a good palette. Okay guys, so we're pretty much narrowing it down to like our last 30 palettes that I've tried this year, and these are so damn good. It's very hard for me to narrow it down, and I'm sure you guys are tired of me talking by this point. I told you this video was gonna be long. So coming up next, we do have the ColourPop Sweet As Can Be. This is the Winnie the Pooh collaboration. Oh my God, I love this collaboration so much. I think this is such a cute palette. I think ColourPop did such a wonderful job with the packaging, and when you open the inside, it definitely is a cool tone palette. It definitely gives off like fall vibes, and I don't know, I just live for this palette. I have used it multiple times. I freaking love it, and I think ColourPop did such a good job with this collection. It's why it's like ranked so high here because I love it. Next, we do have the Solomon 2 collection with Odin's Eye Cosmetics. This sold out. The packaging is beautiful, but the inside color story, I don't know. There was something about it that I absolutely loved. I love the eye look that I created. I had so much fun with this palette, and I just think it's really beautiful. I definitely understood why it sold out. I just think this is one of those palettes that just is like a must in your collection. Not the shimmers are fantastic, the mattes are fantastic, and you can just create so many different beautiful eye looks with this. I love it. So it's a little sad, it's a little bit further down, but again, it's still pretty high up in the grand scheme. But we have the Lunar Beauty 12 Days of Lunar. One, I absolutely do love the packaging. The packaging is beautiful. I did notice that so many of you guys in my videos said that you wish that the color story matched the packaging. And I can definitely see where you're coming from. I wish it definitely had some more blues and purples, whites and silvers. It would have been gorgeous. But I really do love the colors on the inside. I definitely have used this palette quite a lot since getting it. I like the way that I laid it out. I thought it was a very, very cool concept. You don't really see brands create an advent calendar palette. I think Manny did such a phenomenal job. I'd love to see him do it again. I think it was so cute, and I just really do enjoy this palette. Next, we do have the Heather Austin palette with Adept Cosmetics. This is what actually introduced me to this brand, what this was this palette. I loved the formula. The shimmers are phenomenal. The mattes are super pigmented. I love the look that I created. It is such a gorgeous palette. I think Heather did such a good job. It's what really got me interested in this brand, and I think it's gorgeous. I think it's gorgeous. And this is where it really does get hard because I loved all the shadows in here. I thought it was so pretty. And this is like where it really does get hard for me, guys. Next, we do have Not a Box of Chocolate from ColourPop. I reviewed this back in October. I loved the eye look that I created. I thought it was so beautiful, and I feel like this is just such a gorgeous neutral palette. I don't know why. Out of all the neutrals that I showed you, there's just something about this palette that I look at and I just get so inspired to create a really beautiful, like smoky eye look. I don't know what it is. I just think it's really beautiful. I think ColourPop did a phenomenal job with this one. I was a little hesitant when ColourPop announced this collection, but I'm so glad that I got it. It is the ColourPop Hocus Pocus 2 palette. This is the All Hallows Eve. I don't like the packaging. Don't like the caricatures of the girls, but I will say the color story is really beautiful. I love like the witchy eye look that I created. I had so much fun in this video. I thought it was such a beautiful Halloween palette. I ranked it pretty high in my Halloween ranking video, and I definitely will be using this time and time again, especially during Halloween. I can get so fun and creative. The greens and the blacks in here, it's just very inspiring for me. Such a gorgeous, gorgeous palette. Next, we have the Empowered palette from Huda Beauty. I, again, loved the eye look that I created. It was very smoky, beautiful, neutral eye look. The mattes in here are so pigmented, but man, these foil shimmers that she put in here are freaking gorgeous. They are absolutely to die for. I freaking love the look I created. I have definitely used this palette since, and I definitely picked up this palette and used it several times since, and I just think it's really beautiful. I think Huda did a really phenomenal job with this palette. I loved it, surprisingly, because you guys know I'm not the biggest fan of neutrals. So you guys know I don't always go for neutrals, but I was really impressed by this one. Another palette that took me by surprise was the Tarte Maneater After Dark palette. This literally took me by surprise. I did not expect to love this palette as much as I did. I don't know why. I don't really ever play with Tarte too often. But man, this color story was phenomenal. You can create so many different beautiful neutral eye looks with this. You can create beautiful holiday eye looks with this. I just think that this is an overall beautiful holiday encompassing palette. You could do fall, Thanksgiving, Christmas, every day. You could do so much with this. It was such a gorgeous palette. It was so hard to rank this because I have definitely used this several times since getting it. And that says a lot because I have like over 500 palettes. So to use this to use this multiple times really speaks volumes for me. And that's why all these palettes you guys will see right here are palettes that I've used multiple times because it definitely resonates with me. And that's why they're higher up than the other ones that I showed you. Next, we do the Blend Bunny Cosmetics. This is the Primal palette. It's a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful palette. I did struggle in this video. I have played with it since, and I definitely have not had as much struggles. I do have to be careful because the shade Soil definitely did come in like freaking broke, but it is what it is. I have played with it since. It's not like I played with this since, and I will say it's still not my favorite Blend Bunny palette. I go back and forth between Blends and Surge all the time. I can never decide which one's my favorite, but it's a very beautiful, beautiful palette. Definitely perfect color scheme. Definitely great to mix with the very first Blends palette, and I love the shimmers in here. I think she did a phenomenal job with this one. I just wish that didn't come broke, and I'm just glad that I gave it another chance and played with it again off camera, and I was able to make a really pretty eye look with it. So it's why I got ranked higher than what it technically would have been ranked if I didn't try it again. Next, we have the Fantasy Cosmetica. This is the Druid palette. I literally did not know what to expect when I first tried this palette, but my God, now I have to be careful because again, it's starting to crumble, it's starting to break, but the formula in here is to die for. I love the look that I created. I love the shimmers in here. I wish I could show it to you without that shade falling out, but I was so impressed by this. I was so impressed by this brand. I used this palette multiple times. I think it's phenomenal. I highly recommend checking this brand out. It's just unfortunate that some of these shades are coming in, some of these shades are starting to crack, but it happens. Beautiful palette though. All right, next we have the whole Glamlight Hershey Kisses collection. So I do have 5 palettes sitting in front of me, so we're just gonna kind of rank them like as a whole. Now the reason why this is so high up on the list is not because there's color schemes in this palette, because the color schemes, they're not wowing to me, but I really do love the formula. I love the packaging, I love the concept. But the reason why they're so high up is because I literally get so freaking happy when I look at these palettes. Like I look at these palettes and I just get so many memories come rushing back to me that I have such a love for them, like no freaking other. And it's because when I got this collection, I was actually flown out to LA to meet Glamlight, to meet Giselle. I got to go to the Glamlight Hershey Kisses event and I got to see LA, and it has been a dream of mine since I was a little girl to go visit LA and to put my feet in the Pacific Ocean. And I got to, and it was so cool. It was so surreal. It was so fast paced. I vlogged the whole thing and it literally just makes me smile, and I just get so happy when I look at this collection. So it's why it's ranked so much higher than what technically it would have been if it's just based upon the color story in the inside. But there's just something about this collection that I will always hold on near and dear to my heart because of how much it means to me and like what it represents to me. So it's why it's so high up, because I get so happy when I look at it. Next, we do have the Michaela Part 2. This is the 10 pan palette. And I will say the color story on the inside is beautiful. I love this color story. I have played with this palette multiple times. And whenever I want to do like a really beautiful like minty eye look, this is the palette that I go to. Every single time I go to these 2 colors, I freaking love the look I created when I played with this. I have recreated that look several times. I have recreated some of the looks that Michaela did herself using this palette. It's phenomenal. I think out of the palettes that Michaela created, this is probably the best one, my most favorite. You guys have got to get this if you guys have not, because this is like so freaking good. I think Michaela did such a good job with this one. I love the freaking color story. Manny really surprised me with the Nude Prism palette. I loved this palette so much. This is probably my go-to everyday neutral palette. It sits on my desk. I have used this palette so freaking much at this point that I'm probably gonna hit pan on the shade Laura very soon because I can definitely feel it coming. I take the shade Laura and I just put on the shade Milk Tea right here. Sometimes I add the shade Sam, sometimes I do So Icy. There's something about this palette that is so easy and so effortless to use that I am truly just so obsessed with this palette. This is my absolute favorite palette from Lunar Beauty, which is really surprising because you guys know how much I love color, but there's just something about this palette that is a perfect everyday neutral palette. I recommend everybody check this palette out. You guys can use code Allie when shopping at Lunar Beauty to save you guys 10% off. I am wearing the Aphrodite liquid lip today. You guys know it's Christmas time. Well, I always wear a red lip, but like I had to today. But yeah, he really blew me out of the water with this. I thought it was phenomenal, and it's my favorite Lunar Beauty palette. Next, we have the Laura Lee Whimsical Nude Holiday Collection. I recently reviewed this, and I was so blown away by this one. I think it's such a cute packaging. It's very minimalistic. It's very on brand for Laura. But the color scheme on the inside, I don't know. There's something about these greens that I just can't get over. I don't know what it is. I just look at it and I'm like, ooh, I get so inspired. I just want to play with these greens and blacks right here and just use it every single day. I love the look that I created when I played with this. Laura has such an underrated brand as well. You don't really hear that many people talking about it, but her formula is amazing. You guys have got to check it out. Very, very well worth it. Such a beautiful palette. I love it. Next, we have the Danessa Myricks Beauty. This is the Lightwork Volume 4 Transcendence palette. This was actually sent to me by a subscriber. I've played with this off camera. I've never played with it on camera. And I really did not know what to expect. And a lot of people out there ended up hating this palette because of the 4 shadows in here. I loved it. I don't know why people hate it so much. Like, for some reason, I really love it. Even though I definitely struggled with her freaking chroma flakes. I've dried up on me. The formula in here is amazing. I love this row right here and this row right here. I haven't played with this one too much because it is water activated and it's the chrome flakes, and I have had horrible experiences with Danessa Myricks chrome flakes. I spent $200 on those freaking shit for them just to dry up and be rock hard. So I don't play with these at all, but I do play with these shades right here, these duochrome, triochrome shades, multichrome, whatever you want to call them. They're amazing. They're so pigmented. They're so colorful, and I really do enjoy them so much. I just love how creamy and buttery they are. And it's what really made me kind of want to try this brand again. This palette is the only reason why I want to try this brand again. So I really do enjoy it. And a lot of people out there did not enjoy it, but I really did. So next we have the Glamlite collaboration with Scooby-Doo. This is the Creeps and Crawl palette. Now I will say the formula on this is probably one of the best formulas that Glamlite has ever created. They even said they went all out for this formula, and you can tell they truly did. It is gorgeous. Definitely not my favorite color scheme, but I love the packaging. The packaging is probably the best packaging that Glamlite has come out with, but the formula, there was just something different with it that I just could not get over how amazing this formula is. Such a beautiful palette, along with the Real Raggy palette. Again, I loved the packaging on this. Packaging was just so freaking good. And then the formula on the inside, like this is like such a gorgeous palette. Definitely will be ranked up in my Halloween palettes next year. So freaking beautiful. I love the formula. I love the look I created with this. And I have played with this several times since then, just for these greens, because these greens are just so good. Guys, we're narrowing it down to the top 10 palettes that I tried this year. So coming in at number 10, we do have the P. Louise. This is the Stack Them Up palette. I absolutely love this palette. I never got a chance to do a review for you guys, but I definitely have worn this in videos. I have talked to you guys about these palettes, and I will definitely say P. Louise is one of those brands that it's pretty expensive, but oh my God, are their formulas freaking worth it. Their formulas are so creamy and buttery, and they're so pigmented. They create such beautiful packaging, beautiful layout, beautiful color story, and I loved this palette so much. I have used this palette time and time again. I think it's an amazing green eyeshadow palette. I cannot get enough of how gorgeous this palette is. So it's why it's definitely up here in my top 10. It's unfortunate that I was never able to do a review for you guys, but I'm just so glad that I just was playing with it off camera and I fell in love with it. Especially coming in, especially number 9, because number 9, like I think was like my top 3 fall palettes. Like seriously, like look at how gorgeous this is. This is again like the prettiest like freaking fall palette. Like I just can't get over how gorgeous this palette is. It is so freaking beautiful. It's everything I'm looking for in a fall palette. It was so hard to rank this one in that video, and I have used this since. I cannot get over how gorgeous this is. I stare at it going, this is like inspirational to me, and this is like dreams for me and like what I would want to create in the future. And I freaking love it. I freaking love it. If you guys ever get a chance, these are absolutely worth it. I'm a little biased, but of course I had to put my collaboration with Ofra Cosmetics. This is the Ofra collaboration with Allie Dawson 89. That's me. So of course you're going to have like the beautiful summer colors. You're going to have the pastel colors. You're going to have the bright colors in here. I made everything very cohesive where everything works together. These two go together. These two go together. This can go with any of these two go together. This can go with any of this. Like I made it so that everything can go with each other. That's how I picked it out. Now I will say it's not my favorite formula in the world. It's just, I will say it's definitely not my favorite formula in the world, but there is just something that's so special about this palette that I got to curate myself. Now I did pick from existing shades, but I just had the best time. I was so anal about it. Oh my God, it took me so long to create the color scheme and then to lay it out, because I literally wanted every single shadow to have a purpose, to have a reason why it's there, to mix and match, to make sure that they go with each other, that you can create beautiful different eye looks with this. You can have the highlighters in here with this. I just really wanted it to be something special. I'm so proud of it. And it was really cool because Ofra actually brought me and Paige down to Miami to meet the entire team. They took us out. They took us out. They took care of our hotel room. They took care of us completely. They are one of the sweetest freaking brands ever. And I am just so proud of this palette. I may not use it as often, but this would be one of those palettes that I would definitely cherish and put like in a shadow box when I get one, because I'm so proud of it. I'm so proud of it. Next we have the Nomad Cosmetics. This is going to be the Hudson Valley palette. The packaging again is gorgeous. Gorgeous freaking packaging, and the color story on the inside is just so pretty. Like this is what I look at. This is what I'm looking for when I see. Well, this is what I'm looking for. I'm looking for a fall palette. As I'm looking for this, and I'm just now realizing that a lot of these palettes are probably gonna be like fall or Halloween themed towards the end because I'm just obsessed with them. But truly, this is such a gorgeous palette. I think that Nomad Cosmetics did such a phenomenal job. It's one of my favorite palettes from them, and I just think this is such a pretty palette. If I were to recommend any palettes from this brand, it would be this palette alone. Next, we do have the Baddie Bean collaboration with Shroud Cosmetics. This is the Hollow Bean palette. First off, I think that Baddie Bean creates the prettiest freaking Halloween palettes. When you open the inside, it's just so inspirational for me. It definitely screams Halloween. I love the color story in here. I think it matches so perfectly with her first palette. I love Halloween so much. Just to see a brand represent Halloween just is everything to me. Freaking love this. This was rated, I think, this is my top 2 palette. Definitely well worth it. The formula is amazing. The mattes are amazing, and color story, everything about this is just Chef's kiss. Of course, it'd be no surprise that we have the Gourmand Girls Spooked palette. This is my #1 Halloween palette, and for good reason. The color story in here is freaking everything. You can create so many Halloween looks with this. Like, so many Halloween looks with this. The formula is incredible. I loved everything about this. I love the allegory that I created. I love that I could do purple, black, black, orange, white, red, orange, red, green, purple. Like, I can do so many looks with this. It's so universal. Definitely the best Halloween palette. That's definitely the best Halloween palette. And I'm obsessed with this palette. I have used it so much during Halloween off camera. I love it. All right, guys, we're narrowing it down to our top 4, but coming in #4, we do have the Merry Christmas palette from Odin's Eye Cosmetics. This actually is sold out. I wish I'd bring it back because this packaging is gorgeous. The color story on the inside is just so pretty. It definitely does scream Christmas to me. I have used this several times this month alone. I think it's so beautiful. I love the formula in this, and I just think that Odin's Eye did such a phenomenal job with this collection. It came in #1. Came in #1 of my Christmas ranking, and it's just for good reason. It's just beautiful. This is one of those palettes that I will absolutely definitely be holding on to and be creating looks with the rest of the year because it really is that beautiful. It's so funny because I ranked this as #2, but like now I have it higher in the ranking of like the palettes because I just freaking love this Corey. I do love Corey. I just freaking love this story. This is the Christmas Eve palette from Odin's Eye Cosmetics, and there's just something about it that I just can't get over. I love the color story in here. It reminds me of Silver Bells, reminds me of snow, it reminds me of Christmas, and I can create beautiful looks using this palette. I could also mix this with the Christmas palette, and I stare at it so often. I have used this so much this month, like off camera, and I'm so in love, especially the shade right here, Gorgeous. God, is it gorgeous. So gorgeous. All right, guys, coming in at #2, we do have the ColourPop Aurora Struck palette. I don't know what it is about this palette, but I literally cannot get enough of it. One, the color scheme is just so pretty to me. But the inside color story, I just get so excited when I look at this. I had so much fun playing with this palette. I love the look that I created with it. I have used it several times since doing my review, and that definitely says a lot, especially for ColourPop. I don't know if it's because it's cool tone. I don't know because it has pastels in it. I don't know if it's because I recreated like the Aurora Borealis in my eye. I don't know what it is, but there's something about this palette that I'm just like, holy crap, I freaking love it. Even their stupid freaking pressed glitters in here, I love. And I'm like, how? I hated your pressed glitters before, but somehow you reformulated it. And I'm just like, what is this magic? I don't know what it is. I truly am obsessed with this palette. I cannot get enough of it. And I think ColourPop did such a phenomenal job with this. And I'm so in love with this palette. And I just feel like that speaks volumes because I don't touch it. I don't go through my ColourPop as much as I should. All right, guys, coming in at #1, it's my favorite palette of the entire year. It should be no surprise, but it is the Colored Rain Queen Bee palette. First off, I love bees. I have such a soft spot for bees. I freaking love them. I want to get a little bee tattoo. But the color story on the inside, I don't know, it just screams, it just like screams at me. I am so obsessed with this palette. It was my #1 fall palette. I loved the look that I created, and this is exactly what I'm looking for in terms of a fall palette. You're gonna have that mustard yellow, you're gonna have that burnt orange, you're gonna have the gold, you're gonna have like the coral reddish orange color. You're gonna have this beautiful dual chrome green shift with a black shade. It is $16 freaking dollars. The formula is incredible. It's long lasting. The mattes are so pigmented, and just everything about this palette is just freaking yes. I have used this palette more than any palette besides the Nude Prism palette from Luna Beauty this entire year. I have used this palette so much this past holiday season for fall looks that I've done off camera just playing with it, and I have told everybody in my life. I don't really talk to like my best friends and my friends in real life about makeup because, well, one, some of them already do makeup themselves on the channel, like Paige and Teresa. They're to do their own makeup. They could give two shits. But like everybody else who does not really do makeup, I have talked about this palette nonstop. I have recommended it to them. I even bought one of them their palettes because I needed them to have it because that's how good this palette is, and it is just truly everything. I'm so glad that I got this. It has been my favorite palette. I love the packaging. I love how the wings move, and I just can't get over this palette. I have told you guys about this palette so freaking much, and I have gone back to it time and time again since getting it. And to me, that's what speaks volumes, and that's when I realized, holy shit, I really do love this palette because I can't get enough of it, and I will be using this again all next year for fall because it is truly the perfect fall palette. So So those are all the palettes that I ranked. Those are all the palettes I tried this year. This is a very, very, very long video. I did not intend it to be very long. I don't even know if I have my numbers correctly at this point. I either have 87, 89, 93, 94. All I know is I tried a shit ton of palettes this year. And I just like when I did the math, I think that's like pretty much almost 7.5 to 8 palettes a month that I tried, which is truly incredible, truly insane at the same time. But this is my full-time job. But just because some brands that I love so much is definitely towards the bottom, doesn't mean that they're bad. It just means that I prefer other palettes over it. And it was so much fun. And it kind of allows me to sit back, relax, and like look these palettes once more before I do my massive declutter, because that is coming next week for you guys. I will be doing my massive declutter. Some of you guys said do long videos. Some of you guys said break it up in two. We'll definitely see, because this is a long video enough as it is, and I'm making even longer by rambling on. But yeah, guys, let me know what you guys think about this down below. What are your favorite palettes of this year? What are your least favorite palettes of this year? Let me know. So that is it for today's video, guys. If you guys like this video, please make sure you guys give this video a cheeky thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you guys have not already, because I do post 4 to 5 videos every single week. Make sure you guys head over to my other channels, R for the Life, where you guys get to see my cool, wonderful adventures, my amazing husband, Corey. And as always, the biggest thank you goes to all these beautiful, wonderful page members you guys see right here. Thank you guys so much for everything. And to my subscribers and viewers, thank you guys so much for being here. Whether you guys like this video, you guys thumbs down this video, you guys subscribe, you guys did not subscribe. Either way, thank you guys so much for being here. I love and appreciate each and every single one of you. So with that said, guys, I love you, and I'll see you guys in my very next video. Bye!